We begin in Ethiopia, where civil war is escalating. 9 opposition groups have formed an alliance to oust Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and seek a political transition. The rebels say they will do so by force or negotiation. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, along with 8 other groups, announced their goals as African and Western leaders joined calls for a ceasefire. The United Nations Security Council says it is deeply concerned about intensifying clashes. Sarah Walton is our top story.
After hours of negotiations, the Security Council released a joint statement late on Friday afternoon in New York. In it, members of the group expressed deep concern about what they called the expansion and intensification of military clashes in northern Ethiopia, the impact of the conflict on the humanitarian situation and the stability of the country and the region. The president of the Security Council said the group also demanded an immediate end to the fighting.
They further call to put an end to hostilities and to negotiate a lasting ceasefire and for the creation of conditions for the start of an inclusive Ethiopian national dialogue to resolve the crisis and create the foundation for peace and stability throughout the country.
Now, the deliberation amongst Security Council members went on so long that an emergency debate to discuss the situation in Ethiopia, scheduled for Friday afternoon, had to be pushed back to next week. That meeting is expected to include a briefing from the Assistant Secretary General for Africa, Martha Ama Akyapobi. It's been just over a year now since fighting broke out in the northern region of Tigray. The conflict has pitted multiple anti-government groups against federal forces. The situation has escalated in recent weeks. At the end of October, Tigrayan forces declared they'd taken control of 2 towns to the south of Tigray and were advancing towards the capital, Addis Ababa. That prompted the Ethiopian government to declare a state of emergency. The UN remains concerned about the worsening humanitarian situation. Martin Griffiths, the Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, met with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the country's Foreign Minister on Friday and said they had constructive conversations on how to improve access to aid across Ethiopia. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.
Our correspondent Girum Chala is in Addis Ababa following events for us. Let's talk to him. Girum, so tell us first about this rebel alliance. Who are they and how big of a threat do they pose?
Well, these forces, most of them based in the United States, by the way, have announced they have created an alliance perhaps to take power over from the existing government after perhaps TPLF pushes in and topples the government down. That is the plan they have announced. They might be called the federalist and non-federalist forces, and that is the very first idea that they have transcended when they were giving a press conference yesterday. If not possible peacefully, they said they will be dismantling the government by force. From the government side, we have heard that this is a joke, according to one of the authorities from the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, saying to us that this is a joke that people came together, forming an alliance and promising to dismantle a democratically elected government. As you remember, last September, an Ethiopian new government has been formed. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his cabinet were endorsed by the Ethiopian parliament. And before that, we have seen more or less a democratic election endorsed by the African Union itself. So they are saying that these people are promising to do, practically doing it is one thing according to the authority that we spoke to. But then again, they are promising to take over a democratically elected government. So these are the kind of responses that we are hearing about this alliance, which was formed in the United States.
So, Girum, the government is dismissing the alliance as a joke, but at the same time, the Prime Minister has called on citizens to take up arms to defend the capital. Well, what's the mood there?
Across the country, we have seen rallies, thousands of people coming on the streets, stadiums and squares, trying to express alliance with the government and responding to the government's calls at the same time. As you have said, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said people should defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of their country. And based on that, there are so many young men and women who are being enlisted to be part of the Ethiopian National Defense Force as well. Here in Addis Ababa, hundreds of them are already sent to different training camps of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, and across the country, enlisting has continued, voluntary enlisting to be part of this. So pretty much the people of the country majorly are responding positively to the call of the Prime Minister, and we have heard that there are different rallies scheduled between today and Monday at the same time. So we'll have to report to you back, but we can generally confirm that there is a strong and a high number of people coming out on the streets supporting the Prime Minister's and the government's call to defend the country at the same time.
And a year since the conflict broke out in Tigray, and we've heard a lot of warnings about the humanitarian crisis. Just how dire is this situation there?
Unfortunately, the humanitarian situation in the north, as war has continued, is getting dire by the day. You remember that when the war started a year ago, so many people in their millions were evicted from their homes, and these were mostly in the Tigray regional state. As war continued and had a spillover effect in Amhara and Afar regional states, then more people started being affected, and humanitarian services are still in short supply due to so many reasons. One of them being insecurity, the other one, lack of trucks to transport food and other aids to the Tigray regional state, as hundreds of trucks never returned after they delivered food, and so many other reasons. So the United Nations is still concerned. In fact, the Ethiopian government has also said that it is concerned and it needs international help, and also the war needs to stop for this to be resolved. Yesterday, and as you've heard from the earlier story, Martin Griffin was here. He's top official from the UN humanitarian agencies. He spoke to the Prime Minister and other officials, and they are still promising to work together. But the first and most important thing you should understand, by the way, is this war needs to be stopped so that more humanitarian catastrophe can be avoided. But at the moment, what we can report is that it is still dire and needs immediate response in every region that is in a war in this country.
Girum, thank you so much for the update. Appreciate it. Girum Chala in Addis Ababa. Well, my colleague spoke to Dr. Hassan Kananje, director of the Horn Institute, who talked about the unfolding situation in Ethiopia.
I think we are staring at a potential collapse of the government in the wake of very rapid advances, as well as increased alliances against the Abiy Ahmed administration. Second, I think we are looking at a potential very massive humanitarian crisis that we have not seen in this region in recent years. Barring any serious external intervention, it's unlikely that we're going to see a dialogue by the parties themselves, in part because on the one hand, there's a rebel calculation of potential victory, especially in the wake of advances that they've been able to make towards trying to remove Abiy's administration. But secondly, there's also a calculation on the government side, or a desire to try and reclaim some of the battlefield advantages they've been able to lose or to cede to the rebels before perhaps any form of dialogue can be able to be initiated. Ethiopia has been the seat, of course, of the African Union, but it's also one of the anchor states that's been critical in peace and security in the region. And so its absence also means that those aspects are going to be affected, including efforts to stabilize Somalia, as well as counterterrorism efforts that are critical, especially in trying to get rid of international terror. Also, there is a danger of proliferation of small arms and light weapons, as well as, of course, a potential humanitarian catastrophe that may affect not just countries neighboring Ethiopia, but countries in much of the continent, pushing refugees probably all the way to Europe and elsewhere. And so it is a matter, I think, of urgency that action is taken now and not later.